Right, so, GAMERA REBIRTH. Wow! I went in expecting nothing. Thought, oh, well, it's his first return in like almost 20 years. Oh, it can't be that good. It's just, plus it's a Netflix series, and Netflix, it's Netflix. I was floored, to be fair. Wow, there is a lot of this I want to cover, and it's going to be a bit of an extensive video. So, getting started, first episode. Human characters. They were iffy at first, as was their animation. The animation for humans as a whole is rough, but I found myself getting used to it, actually, which is pretty good. But first episode, I was following the human characters, thinking, well, this is okay. Then GAMERA shows up, and shot-for-shot recreation of that little short from like 2015, 2016 that everyone thought was going to be a new movie. Shot-for-shot recreation of that. It was fantastic. Whole rising up from the ground, looking at him, shoots at the Gyaos, whatever, they're coming at him, he shoots a fireball. Fantastic! Like, honestly, it really surprised me how good it was. And then the big Gyaos shows up for the fight, and wow! I don't know how they, choreographed these fights or planned it out, but whoever did that, get this individual a 5-star meal. Because, goodness gracious! The GAMERA wallops this creature. He pops tiny Gyaos in his hands. He finds the big one, shoots its leg off with a fireball, just tackles it, throws the thing like a football. Then he jumps on it. GAMERA jumps onto the thing, starts beating the life out of it. And goodness gracious, I was so surprised. Then he finishes it off with a fireball and everything. Shockwave shows up, burns everything around them. And for a good first episode, I was surprised how, invested I got. Then the episode ends. Whole thing with the human characters, got the American guy who's, I think, a transfer student. He's an interesting character, but not in the good, interesting way at first. Because he's, actually just racist. It's kind of weird. But he somehow grows as a character and becomes the main guy's friends relatively easily. Which, good for him. Now, I understand that GAMERA is the friend to all children, and GAMERA's whole thing is protecting kids. But the whole series being based around these kids for the first few episodes, it left some stuff to be desired. However, I expected to not care about these characters. I expected to just not give a flying turtle. Expected to not care about what they were doing at all. And I ended up being brought to tears twice by the final episode, which is not something I expected whatsoever. I eventually found myself liking and enjoying these characters, though there were some odd parts, just parts that were why would you include that? And if you've seen the show, I assume you know what I'm talking about. Now, for the second episode, we got the characters all together, and I watched it all in one sitting, so the episodes kind of blend together. But I do believe the second episode had, Jiger. I believe that's how you pronounce it, or Jiger, or however you say it. That thing was freaky. Kind of reminds me of Nezura, the big rat monster. I don't like its face. I don't. And it is nothing like the Bandai vinyl in terms of colors, but it's still a cool design, and I was surprised by the fact that there were so many of them, and they have ended up all eating each other to become one big monster, which is interesting. At the start of the episode, there's a whole thing where the kids go into the sewers, and their compasses aren't working, being pulled around in every direction, which I assume is related to the magnetism abilities that I think Jagger had in the Showa movies. I haven't watched them, but it was never touched on again in the episode, because they're attacking, they're shooting at the monster, then Gamera just shows up, and holy. Yet another good battle. Gamera gets stabbed a few times, and it was very uncomfortable to watch. But then he does the Heisei hand heating up thing. He punches the thing in the mouth and burns it from the inside like a gosh darn Christmas turkey. Wow! And Gamera is just wrecking these monsters left, right, and center. And I'm here for it. It's great. That was interesting. I like that part. Then on to the next episode, which pretty sure had Zygra. I expected nothing from Zygra. I saw the Bandai vinyl and was like, oh, this looks nothing like the Showa version. It looks just like a Gyaos copy-pasted and turned silver. It looks dumb. I don't really like it. Favorite episode. I'm gonna be honest. In terms of just how much Actually, is it my favorite episode? I don't know. It's the part in the series where my expectations changed and how I see this series change. Because episode 3 marked the bit where I felt going iffy, instantly changed it into, I love this, this is the best Gamera's ever been. The whole Zygra chase, the bit with Gamera fighting it, how long its tail is, freaky. It, uses fine-tuned, specialized bubbles to move really fast, chases the boat, harasses the human characters. It's introduced attacking a cruise ship and eating everyone in detail. It's crazy. I really didn't expect to like the thing as much as I did, to the point where I'd say it's one of my favorite kaiju in the show. Yeah, maybe. What else is there? Right, so that episode, eventually all the kids, they come up with a plan like, oh, Gamera made this frequency and it made the thing really mad, so let's go on to land. Kids find this big tower, they go inside, and they manage to replicate Gamera's frequency to lure Zygra onto land. Zygra is way cooler on land. The way it walks, the way it moves, it's like, I don't know what it reminds me of, but whatever it is, I like it. And it's walking around, it's making all these freaky noises that kind of sound like human speech, but not quite. Then we've got the fight. Gamera shows up right before that Zygra starts devouring the kids. And possibly one of his coolest intros in the show. Big explosions of water. He comes up, he roars, the lighting is great. I put it at the start of the video as like a little intro. It's great. And then Zygra turns around, roars at him, and there's like this little struggle sort of race where both Zygra and Gamera are charging up their attacks. Zygra's aimed at the kids and Gamera's aimed at Zygra. And they're both like racing to charge up their attacks, but Gamera, oh, he doesn't see what's coming. Zygra's long tail goes all under the water and stabs him, and then Gamera gets knocked aside, and Zygra takes the opportunity to jump into the air, start pelting him with beams and lasers. Gamera, oh man, I don't know how he does it, but somehow he ends up just wiping this thing. He grilled Zygra. One blast. Grilled the poor thing. Like, genuinely kebabbed. Turned into a roast chicken. Dead. Just steaming and burnt. From one fireball. Like, I get it's a water creature, but still. How hot does his attack have to be to entirely engulf something's body in flames and grill it in one shot? He does this on numerous occasions. It's fantastic. Now, the next episode, the kids who were on the boat on their way to this big science area, they got distracted by Zygra, of course. But they eventually end their journey and they end up on this science oil rig looking thing. And they go to this room. Some kids are suspicious. Like the guy named Joe, he's not trusting the Foundation, or Eustace Foundation, I think it was called. He doesn't trust them at all. Like, he thinks there's something going on behind the scenes. Secret! He's right! Kids end up getting locked in their room. So 2 of them, I think their name is Junichi? Yeah, Junichi and Joe. They go through the vent in the bathroom of the little suite they're in. Go searching through the grates and the vents and everything. They go hunting, and they eventually find their way to the big pit in the foundation. Big, just hole in the floor that leads to a surprise tool that's going to help them later. They end up trying to make their way back because there's no way to get out. And at the same time, the Brody fella and Boko, the other kids, they are also going through the vent to try and find them. Because, oh, big surprise, there's another kaiju. Oh no. Earthquakes hitting the place, the ground is shaking. And at the start of the episode, you see Gurion. Thing bursts out of the ground, completely devours the grilled grilled Zygra. Yummy. Grilled fish, that's great. Just, Gurion, man. That thing is amazing. Comes out of the ground, swings itself around, it stretches its own model because how acrobatic it is, slices through whatever it wants, doesn't care what anyone's doing. That thing is amazing. And then it opens its mouth, and it's disgusting. And I love it. We got Gurion, he eventually makes his way to the Eustace Foundation floating rig, starts messing stuff up. Its introduction. So this guy, one of the one of the people assigned to help the kids, he just straight up quits because he doesn't want to get killed. And he's trying to get on this helicopter. Gurion shows up, dices through the helicopter and the entire landing pad and everything, lands on this floating science rig, hunting for the kids, and he's tearing through whatever, not even tearing, just cutting through the environment like butter. And he's amazing, and there's a whole bit where the kids are trying to find each other because the building's collapsing, and stuff starts to get weird. Really weird. By really weird, I mean that this lady who's been assigned to look after the kids, she doesn't start looking for them as soon as the building is being attacked by a giant monster. Hint, hint. So she eventually starts looking for them after asking one random dude where they are, as if she shouldn't know. Weird. Eventually, she goes to look for them and gets conveniently trapped under rubble, and eventually the kids reunite by themselves, right as Gurion shows up. Great. They are seconds away from being devoured when GAMERA shows up, just beats this thing up. But this is the first time where I've actually been worried for GAMERA in the show, because wow! Gurion is frightening. Thing I've never seen the original Showa movie. I've never seen it in a fight, ever. This incarnation is just everything I could have wanted in a kaiju and more. It's whipping around, it's slicing everything up. First of all, it cuts GAMERA's arm off, then it stabs him through his entire body, then it uses its back spikes and head knife as some sort of barrel for shooting these laser discs of death and destruction and doom. One of which it just takes out GAMERA's eye, the rest of it starts stabbing into him, starts mutilating him, and then it just stabs through his entire shell, and I genuinely thought he died. Because Gurion's roaring, it laughs. It laughs at him. Meanwhile, these kids are freaking out. And something interesting, it wasn't really explicitly stated, oh, this kid, Boko, has a connection to GAMERA. But when GAMERA gets his arm cut off, the kid feels it too. He's freaking out. He's on the ground, screaming about his arm being cut off or something. He's holding his arm right where GAMERA got his cut off at the same time. It's very clear what's going on. Now, we have something that happens next that Usually when I watch something, I just watch it. I smile maybe, I'm usually just quiet though. Gamera's shell opens up. Spikes come out of the side. His boosters turn on. Like, in the rest of this show, he's just been flying around like he does in the Heisei movies, with wing fins and stuff. Nah, all his arms tuck into his shell, including his head too. Spikes come out of the side. They start spinning around super fast, flies into the air, and starts turning into like this spinning wheel of pain. And at that moment, I was thinking, oh yeah, you are done. You're done. This is it. You're finished. And Gamera goes at Gurion, hits him once, cuts him in half, completely bisected down the middle, and just flies away, lands in the ocean, and just vanishes. Gurion gets cut in half. This show, man. This is when I knew, like, oh, I love this. It's amazing. Okay, so now we get into Virus and 5th episode. The big pit that I mentioned earlier. In this pit of doom in this supposed science facility is the fossilized body of a giant monster. And the whole Aurelium material that's been mentioned occasionally throughout the show can apparently revive it. So, plot twist, the people who have been following these kids and protecting them, well, the main person behind it is evil. And the people who, are in charge of the whole facility are ancient super colonists who live on the moon. And Virus is their trump card to completely destroy the world and reduce all of humans' population. All of humanity is going to be wiped out aside from 1 million people. 1.2, I think they said? Yeah, 1.2 million people after Virus has done what they wanted to do. That sucks, but it's great. Virus, yeah, there's a whole, takeover plot. Kids get captured, they get beat up and thrown in this cage, which is pretty funny. And yeah, Virus awakens after some shenanigans. And when it crawls up out of the pit, and when its tentacles bust through the roof of the pit, and they're all up in the air, just before they clasp down around the edges, it is exactly like the 2015 Gamera short film, when this monster that's at the second half bursts out the top of a tower. Its tentacles are in the exact same position, same manner, flopping down around the sides. I definitely think it was inspired. But for the rest of episode 5 leading into 6, we have Virus, who's revealed to be this super monster of death. Haha, Gamera, super monster. But it's just vile. It's evil. It genuinely has a diet of young children. That's scary. And apparently these kids were going to get fed to it. Now, it shows up, it crawls out of the pit, and all I've seen of it up until this point is just the Bandai vinyl. Its head splits open and turns into a cannon, which it uses to shoot down the little, space shuttle that the kids are trying to take off out of. The kids get on a space shuttle with one of their friends, one of these helper guys, and they take off, and Virus tries to shoot them down. But, oh no, it misses. That's no problem. It flies! It tucks all its tentacles under itself, and in the most bizarre Showa-style thing I've seen, it uses anti-gravity to fly into space like a giant spinning top and goes after them. And we're here thinking, oh no, Gamera just got beaten up. He's ruined. These kids are gonna get devoured. No, Gamera, oh, it's fantastic. We got a panning shot of this thing flying away into space, and the camera turns and zooms in. Gamera's on a mission. He's flying. And I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a big battle. Gamera sees this thing, the strongest, most evil monster so far. He sees this thing as an obstacle, not an enemy, an obstacle. And what does he do? He speeds up and he plows through the thing. He just explodes it. And he doesn't try to attack it. No, he blocks its attack and bursts through its body, like a meteor, and he keeps going, and he saves the kids falling from space. One of their friend just sacrificed themselves to get the kids away on an escape pod, and he sees this happening, and he saves the kids on their escape pod and brings them back down to the surface of the earth. The kids get out of the pod, and Gamera's just laying there. He's passed out. Me. Gamera's just passed out on the sand. And he prioritized saving these kids over fighting the most vile, evil, powerful monster that threatens the entire planet. And what does he do? He blows through it in one shot and goes to sleep. He's him. Gamera is him. Oh, but it doesn't end there. That is the end of episode 5. Now for episode 6. Wow. Gamera, first of all, Gamera gets hooked up to, like, life support. Scientists from all across the world are brought in to bring Gamera back to life. These kids are freaking out, their parents get called in, they're all like, oh, your kids are alive, don't worry. Everything's going great. Then we get a scene of the people on the moon, like the moon colonists, realizing, oh, well, virus is dead. We still have one final backup plan. Gauss. It's revealed that there was another Gauss called, like, Space Gauss or Super Gauss. It was just S. Gauss, so I assume super or space. But anyways, that thing shows up. It devours the woman who was trying to enslave the kids and serve them to a giant tentacle god. It eats her and flies away. Or, well, I say flies away. It tries to. So this ugly thing looks like a fusion of Zadis, Gauss, just rough. It looks rough. It falls into the water of the ocean, and it swims away. So it's probably like part Zygra too, I guess. Whatever it is, it swims away, and it eventually makes its way to where Gamera has landed, and is currently in, like, the Kaiju ICU. Just, the kids, they have this flashback in episode 5, where they see the old civilization that Gamera attacked and fought, virus in. See this old flashback thing, and in this flashback, someone says, Gamera, you're our only hope, and holds up one of these Aurelium crystals in this, like, energy coil. Kid says that to the scientists, and they try and recreate it because of frequency, try and bring Gamera back to life faster. This Super Gauss shows up before Gamera is brought back to life, and it's fighting these tanks. It's pretty funny. Throughout the whole show, there's been this fleet of tanks that have been getting, like, their own minute-long clips, and they've done nothing. They've just sat there, and one guy in it has talked to someone else. So these tanks are, like, just on standby the entire series, and they finally have a use now. They're attacking Super Gauss as it shows up, firing at it and everything, and Boko, the main kid who's linked to Gamera, he decides, yeah, I'm gonna make myself a target. He runs out there, trying to bring the thing's attention to him, and he's trying, the thing's coming after him. It's about to just erase him. Then Gamera attacks it. Gamera's back, still missing an arm. He just got out of the ICU, basically. He's standing there, and he's roaring at the thing. Even moments away from death, in his worst possible state. He's been stabbed, he's had his arm cut off, he's been electrocuted, ruined, mutilated, he's been to space. For the good and safety of children, he still fights. He is him. He's amazing. I love Gamera. Now, for the final battle, Gamera versus S-Gauss, or Super Gauss. He's fighting this thing. Gamera's on his last legs, and this thing shooting lasers at him, beams, he's ruining him, basically. And Gamera, he thinks, oh yeah, I can do this. S-Gauss opens its mouth and shoots out this ovipositor that goes down Gamera's throat. And the thing just makes it looks like Zadis. Like, it's got the side fins, it's got the weird body, it has the mouth, long tongue thing, and it starts, like, shooting eggs or something into Gamera. It's really gross to think about, because there's glowing lights going into Gamera, and he starts looking more and more tired, like he's getting force-fed by this burnt bird. Looks gross. And eventually, enough shots are fired at the thing, and Gamera is able to get the tongue out of his mouth. And he's feeling not good. He falls over. He's feeling rough. And somehow, he manages to gather the last of his energy. He goes spinning disc mode again, and he hits Esgios, turns into like a Beyblade, and he grinds its body down into literal ash. He turns this thing into ash. He burns it, going so fast and cutting the thing, it gets erased. And after that, his shell lands on the ground, all his spikes tucked back in, and he's just sitting there. And then he gets back up. Woohoo! Gamera won! Yay! Turns out that Gamera is infected with like some evil virus from Esgios, and yet another space colonist secret plan. Gamera, his like entire color palette gets a couple shades darker, and his eyes turn red. Really, in the instant, remind me of like the Heisei Nightmare Gamera, and it's pretty cool. But Gamera turns into Shadow the Hedgehog. He gets mad, and he's looking like he's about to kill the kids. And then the Boko guy says, "Gamera, this isn't you! Fight back!" And it just instantly works, which is funny. But Gamera's the friend of all children. They can't have him fight kids. So Gamera reverts back to normal. And, I guess he watched Sonic Snapcube. Because he looks up at the moon that these space colonists are on, charges up some Godzilla Ultima beam, and he shoots a laser to the moon! And he blows a hole straight through the moon! From Earth! I'm pissing on the moon! Gamera shoots a single laser, and he wipes out the entire moon colonist force, and then he turns to dust. He breaks apart and turns to dust like he got snapped in Endgame. And, he's him. Gamera's him. And then, in the final few moments of the episode, we get this thing where, okay, kids are all going back to their families. It was a crazy summer adventure. We had the bit that started at the start of the first episode, where Boko's talking to Joe. Now we know the context. Joe's dead. We're all talking. It's sad. Made me tear up a little. And then, the final credits scene, we get all the kids thinking, we can keep Gamera's memory alive. They zoom in. Toto. There's a baby Gamera in this facility with cute little eyes, and it's just, we're getting a season 2 for sure. There's Toto, like baby Gamera, somehow, right there, carrying on the memory. And then the final thing of episode 6, the last episode, is we get one of the little remote controls, one of the little, like, communication devices in the old tree that the kids hang out in. Boko's saying, "Mission Control, can you hear me? I'm still alive." So, now that we know that, one guy who was said to die is alive. We've got baby Gamera to replace the Gamera that turned to dust. The moon colonists are gone, and all the kaiju are defeated. We're definitely getting a season 2, of course, and I went in expecting nothing. I had no expectations, and somehow, in the span of 6 episodes, they created the most effective, well-made, well-paced, enthralling, amazing thing that Gamera's ever been in. Like, Singular Point had like 12 episodes? 13 maybe? In half the time, Gamera Rebirth did way more and had a better story. I love Singular Point still, but Rebirth, for Gamera's first thing in close to 20 years, this was fantastic! Now, hitting the 30-minute mark now. what can I say other than I love this? I absolutely love it. My only cons are that the roars of monsters other than Gamera were, like, nothing burgers, and also Gamera's theme sounds like a royalty-free rock music intro. But aside from that, this thing owns. If you haven't seen it already, while you're here, this is a spoiler review, but just go watch GAMERA REBIRTH. If you have seen it, watch it again. It's great, and I love it. This has been my thoughts on GAMERA REBIRTH, and it's an amazing return to the character. So thank you for watching, even though it's a very long video, but if you stuck around this long, thanks. And I love to see what they're going to do next.